All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about how to identify triads that are already inverted. You'll find some of these on worksheet 9. Let's look at this chord here. Okay, we see that there are three notes. There's a C sharp way down here that's on a line, a ledger line. Then there's an A on a space and an E on a space. When you find that the chord notes are spread out, and if you notice that some of them are on lines and some are on spaces, this one too, two notes on spaces, one note on a line. If you come across a chord like that, it's really dangerous to just assume that the bottom note is the root. You know, if I were to just say this must be a C chord because C is on the bottom, that would be a mistake. Actually, it's C sharp anyway. But that would be a mistake because maybe that note, this chord, is inverted. Remember, we studied chord inversions. If the root is the lowest note, it's in root position. If the third of the chord is the lowest note, it's in first inversion. And if the fifth of the chord is the lowest note, then it's a chord in second inversion. So we may not know yet what the root of this chord is. The way to figure it out, what I think is one of the easiest ways to figure it out, is to rearrange the notes that you have on the staff. Rearrange them so that you use the same three letter name notes, but you change their position on the staff so that they're all line up either on lines or spaces. And the good news is, it doesn't matter if one person chooses to move them around so that they're all on lines and another chooses to move them around so they're all on spaces. You should both come up with the same answer. Okay, so let's look at this chord here. We have a C sharp on a line down there, an A on a space, and an E on the space. Since I've got two notes already on spaces, and they're kind of in the middle of the staff anyway, I'm going to keep that A on the space. And then I'm going to move this E. The E is on a space. There's an E on a line down here, but the closest E on a space is the one I've already got. So I'm going to leave that. And this is a C sharp. So I need to move that C sharp, which is currently on a line, to a space. Oh, remember, every good boy does fine, and F-A-C-E. C sharp is right in the middle. Whoops, I messed up. I put it in the wrong spot. Here's C sharp. Okay, now what I've done is I've rearranged those notes so that they're all on spaces. This chord here and this chord over here are exactly the same chord. The only difference is that one of them is stacked on three spaces, consecutive spaces, and this one is spread out. Once the chord is stacked on consecutive lines or consecutive spaces, then it is okay to assume that the bottom note is the root, the middle note is the third, and the top note is the fifth. So if the bottom note is the root, this is an A chord. This funny looking one must also be an A chord because A is the root. It's spread out, it's not arranged in root position perhaps, but A is the lowest note we see there. So we're going to click there and we're going to type in that this is an A chord. Alright, now what we need to do is figure out what kind of an A chord. So I would go to my circle of fifths, I would look up A on the circle. You're probably doing that, I hope, as we're going along. And you see that A has three sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. This chord that I'm dealing with has an A natural, that's right, a C sharp, that's right, and an E natural. So this is an A major chord. So I'm going to write that part in now. I know it's A, and the notes all make up the A major chord, so I'm going to write A major. Whoops, can't type all of a sudden, sorry about that. And then the last thing I'll need to do, now that I know it's an A major chord, the last thing I'll need to do is figure out which inversion I'm dealing with for this funny looking chord. So I'll compare it with the chord I rearranged earlier. A is the root of the chord, but that's not on the bottom. C sharp is the note that's on the bottom. And C sharp, let me see, C sharp is not the root. C sharp is the third of the chord. So this A major chord that I've just written, or I've just identified, is in first inversion because the third of the chord is on the bottom. So that's how I'll write in that answer. It's an A major chord in first inversion. I hope that makes some sense. I'll try another example in just a moment.